Welcome to PENSARE Basketball Live. Everyone is reacting to the disaster that is the Toronto Raptors starting out 1-4, getting out rebounded by 30, giving up back-to-back 139 points. Scottie Barnes said it is disappointing, disgusting, whatever he said. This team has not started out well, and all the conversation right now is around, does the starting five fit? Is Emmanuel Quickley overpaid? Is Jakob Poeltl washed? Does Darko Rajakovic need to be fired? Did Masai Ujiri leave a mess? A very liked and very frequent comment. So I want to talk about the positives because there are so many positives. And initially, I set this live for 4 o'clock because I thought I'm gonna find 10 positives. I'm gonna really search. I'm gonna turn my brain on and I'm gonna search for the positives in this sea of mess that is the Toronto Raptors rebounding. They're atrocious, currently 27th ranked defense. I'm gonna look past the mess that has been Emmanuel Quickley running the offense. I'm gonna look past the rotations. I'm gonna try to find 10 positives. And I gotta tell you, it wasn't that hard. It wasn't hard to find 10 positives. It was so not hard to find 10 positives that I actually ended up finding more than 10 positives. Please like this video if you still believe in the Toronto Raptors. Am I setting myself up to have like 2 likes on this video? I don't know. Y'all let me know. But I think there are plenty of positives and it's not as bad as you think. And I will start you out with a little bit of a history lesson to the OG Toronto Raptor fans who sat there and gave up on the '07 Raptors who started 2-8. They ended up winning 47 games. To the people, to the people who gave up on the 14 Raptors, the 2013-2014 Raptors with Rudy Gay. Well, they started out 6-12. They were abysmal. They were losing games in OT. They looked like a mess. And then suddenly it all turned around. Is this Raptor team going to start out slow and then peak at the right time? I think that is the plan. Obviously, if you're implementing a new offense, a new defense, a new centerpiece of your offense in Brandon Ingram, there are going to be some growing pains. Brandon Ingram is not Sandro Mamukelashvili. He is not super easy. He is not super portable, but he is super talented and he has been relatively very efficient. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at the positives. And by the way, not something you're expecting. There's going to be an Emmanuel Quickley positive that is going to blow your freaking mind. And it's going to be the last positive because I believe in saving the best for last. So let's talk about the positives. We'll stream through this really quickly. Positive number one, RJ Barrett. Okay, what were the criticisms of RJ Barrett coming over from New York? Wasn't efficient, took too many bad shots. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. Okay, RJ Barrett is shooting 57.6% from the field, something that I think will probably taper off to about 52, 51, but that would be amazing. And that would be a market improvement over last year's 46.8. That would be close to the 55.3% field goal percentage that he first shot when he got to Toronto, where everyone was like, oh my God, RJ is so efficient. Well, RJ Barrett has been relatively efficient. Yes, and right now, he is also shooting 80% from the free throw line, which is a welcome change from the fact that the last 2 years with the Raptors, he shot 63%. So it's been consistent 63% over the last 2 years with the Raptors. And right now, small sample size alert. But to everyone who's going to say, Rob, it's a small sample size. Well, y'all are crashing out over 1-4, and that's also a small sample size. Y'all were crashing out over Scottie Barnes 2 preseason games. That's a small sample size. Small sample size, saying this as the guy with the stats degree, does not only get to apply when you don't like the conclusion, right? So if you're negative and I say something positive, you don't get to say small sample size. If I say something about your favorite player that you don't like, you don't get to say small sample size and then give me a retort to that about my favorite player that you don't like and be like, well, that's not a small sample size. That's just who he is. That's a confirmation bias. Let's not talk about that. So RJ Barrett, with all of his defensive warts, and there have been plenty, this is his worst defensive rating ever. Okay. He is also posting his best offensive rating ever, and he is averaging 28 points per 100 possessions, which I think is valuable. He is getting to the line less than he has in years past, and I have a feeling that has something to do with the referees, but hopefully over some period of time that will change, and he'll start getting to the line a little bit more, and he's doing all of this without dominating usage, which I think was very important if you're hoping for RJ Barrett to be a third option next to Brandon Ingram and Scottie Barnes. So I think that that's important, that he's been efficient in his new role. Speaking of Brandon Ingram's one of my biggest criticisms of BI, and I say this as a major BI fan, is that I've always felt that he dominated possessions a little bit too much and that he was too talented to be shooting 51% from two. And he's been that pretty much his whole career. You take out his first two seasons in LA, where he shot 42, 44, and 48% from two. The next several years have been 52, 50, 51, 50, 50, 53, 51. You see that there's a trend here in his 2-point percentage. He takes a lot of really difficult shots, and he has made a lot of really difficult shots in Toronto, but in Toronto, as I suspected, they're going in at a higher rate. And granted, only 5 games in, but Brandon Ingram is connecting on 58% of his twos. And it has been a major, major lift for the Raptors' overall offense. Okay. And that's what he was supposed to do. And he's still averaging 31 points. He's not he's not killing possessions with his dribble. He's shooting 8% better from the field overall than he did last year. I do not expect him to continue to shoot 46% from three. So that number will taper off. But, I would like to see the 3-point attempts go up a little bit because he is, as Ivan said, blending in. I don't know Rowe talking about RJ Barrett here, but I think Brandon Ingram has done a great job of blending into the offense. And I do think that he and Scottie are slowly over the last couple of games developing a synergy where they're both able to dominate on the court together. And honestly, if you're someone who is a fan of the Raptors and wants the Raptors to be good 5 months from now or 6 months from now, not 5 minutes from now, you're someone who's looking for positive growth in the on-court chemistry between your two best players. Because when Shaq and Kobe didn't get along, the Lakers didn't do well. When they finally figured out how to be on the court together, they did well. They won championships. They won 3 straight. Your two best players have to have positive synergy. We can shuffle the deck around those two players. We can shuffle lineups around those two players. But when your two best players have oil and water energy or oil and water, synergy on the court, it really does limit what you can do because those two almost always have to be on the court to start the game, and they almost always have to be on the court to finish the game. Speaking of some youth cooking, now I'm just going to use box plus minus here. Your undrafted free agent from last year, Jamison Battle, has a 1.3 box plus minus, and in the 3 games he's played, he's been relatively positive. Do I expect him to keep shooting 87% true shooting? No, I don't. But he has been a marksman, and this was expected because I've heard a lot of things about Jamison Battle's work ethic. Jonathan Mobo, again, very positive defensively. The vast majority of his impact right now is coming on the defensive end, and we'll take a closer look at that. But overall, I think between preseason and here, we can say that his finishing around the rim has been a little bit better. I would also argue that Sandro Mamukelashvili, who is not necessarily a spring chicken, but is 26 years old and is very much entering the prime of his career as a second-round pick who was picked 54th overall, is doing really well in Toronto. We'll take more of a close look at Sandro, but I think Colin Murray-Boyles has been a positive revelation. And in the 2 games that he has played, in the 27 minutes he has played, Jacoby Walter has thoroughly outplayed Grady Dick. And while that may be disappointing news to people who believe that Grady Dick is the future of the 2-guard position for the Raptors, I think it is probably good news for the fact that Jacoby has been overwhelmingly positive defensively. His point of attack defense, pressure defense, picking up 94 feet, the way the Raptors want to play, Jamal Shed, Jacoby Walter are the 2 guys who can do this. And they're both guys you picked up in last year's draft for not very high value picks. So I think that that's a very big positive. Moving on from the positives, take a look at the Toronto Raptors. Now, if I told you Jakob Poeltl played this badly and then Emmanuel Quickley and the starters had such bad lineup synergy, would you have ever guessed that the Raptors would have a 14th ranked offensive rating, that they would be 6th in pace, right? The quicker you play, the more mistakes you're going to make. Would you have guessed that they'd be top 10 in points per game, right? Obviously, the defense is horrible. The net rating is terrible, but the expected win-loss of 2 and 3 is right around average. They dropped a game that they shouldn't have dropped, which is somewhere between Dallas and Milwaukee. They probably should have picked one up. They shouldn't have beat San Antonio. They definitely, at least walking into the season, you wouldn't have picked them to beat Atlanta. And they definitely shouldn't have won last night, having to go up against Steven Adams without a single 7-footer in the lineup. But overall, I can say this team is performing right around expectations. 2 and 3 would be my expectation going in. But if you told me that you would have to work with this version of Yak, I would have said you'd be 1-4, which is exactly where you are. This is not all bad because I think most of us this season coming in expected us to be a top 10 defense and a bottom 10 offense. The fact that you are a top half offense right now, given that you're still trying to work out the kinks between your main pieces and you're having to do all of this without your best screen setter, and screen setters are the most important thing for Darko's offense to begin with. The fact that Jakob Poeltl has been as immobile and as useless as he's been, I think this just matters a lot. And I also want to say your defense transition, everything you want to do, the quick hitters and the pace. The Raptors were number one in pace 3 games ago. 2 games ago, they were second in pace. Now they're sixth in pace. We're seeing this pace kind of slowly come down. They were averaging 108 pace. So 108 possessions per 48 minutes. They're now down to about 104.5. This is still good for top 6 in the league, and I expect this to remain top 10. The problem with pace right now is you're not getting the stops to actually run. So you're preemptively running and you're abandoning the fact that you got to get rebounds. Okay. So overall, I think there's some positives here. Speaking of positives, here is Colin Murray Boyle stacked up against 3 fellow front court players in the draft. Derek Queen is off to an abysmal start. I will remind you that the New Orleans Pelicans parsed away a first round pick and another first round pick, which is the future first round pick, unprotected this year. The Pelicans are one of the reasons you should probably feel happy to be a Raptor fan because it could be worse. You could be this bad. The Pelicans don't have a single win either, if I remember correctly. I think they're either 1-4 or like 0-4. They don't have a single win either. By the way, they don't have their pick this year. That pick is gone. That pick went to Atlanta. And Atlanta now owns possibly AJ Devonta or Darren Peterson or Cam Boozer because this Pelicans team is going to be god awful. To the people who wanted Kaman Malawatch, I actually had Kaman ranked one spot higher than Colin Murray Boyles. But if you had told me that CMB was going to come out and shoot 60% from 3 across his first 3 games, and I don't expect this to continue, but man, oh man, like my guy, Carter Bryant, has been so bad so far. And shout outs to Carter. I know he's going to pick it up, but man, he has a negative 14 box plus minus right now. He's literally like the bottom of the draft class. There's like 3 players that have like really bad analytics. The first few months of most rookies, it's really, really rough for most of them. Okay. The fact that Colin Murray Boyles has come out with the defensive difficulty of his role, the fact that he's having to guard Wemby and AD and everyone that he had to guard last night, from Şengün to Steven Adams. I mean, geez, this is very impressive. I cannot tell you, like, apart from Scottie Barnes over the last 6 years, this is the most impressive rookie that I have seen in a Raptors uniform. And I'll tell you right now, his poise, his understanding, his screen setting, his defensive activity, the playmaking, everything that he does, and eventually the shooting, the driving, all of it. Everything here screams to me that you got an actual starter at the 9th overall pick. And that's what you want. You want a young, natural starter who has a lot of upside, and he has a ton of upside. There's a lot of room to grow in his game. So, shout outs to Colin Murray Boyles. He has been a big positive for the Raptors. Give this video a like if you're suddenly feeling a little bit better about the Toronto Raptors. Now, speaking of lineup data, the Raptors starting 5 has been bad. Oh, they've been bad. Their initial starting 5, which includes Jakob Poeltl, posted a defensive rating of 125.4. That would be the worst defense in the league. They posted a 105 offensive rating. That would be the worst offense in the league. Basically, to put it lightly, they are like one of the worst starting lineups in the league. The Magic are worse, though. I mean, I don't know if you're one of those people that gets a little, happy seeing someone else struggle, but it could be worse because Scottie is drastically outperforming Cade Cunningham, Paolo Banchero. We'll get into that in a little bit. But overall, I think there are plenty of starting lineups that are really struggling to find synergy, and the Raptors starting lineup is one of them. If there's bad news here, it didn't get that much better with Colin Murray Boyles in 15 minutes. Instead of posting a negative 20.4 rating, you posted a negative 63.3 rating, which is ridiculous. Okay. You posted an offensive rating of 90. You just couldn't score with that 5-man unit. But there have been some good blended units with Colin Murray Boyles that have been positive. However, the lineup with Ingram, Barrett, Quickley, Barnes, and Mamu has been a revelation. Again, in just 9 minutes, that lineup has posted a positive 50 net rating. And I think that shows you, at least, there's this old saying from Randy Pausch which said, when things are not going well, rejoice because you're probably learning a lot. I think what the Raptors are learning right now is they desperately need a shooting center. Okay, because for all of what Mamu Kelishvili gives up defensively, and he does give up a lot, he's not a bad defender. He's just not exactly what you need. He is giving you a vision into what this starting five could look like if they had a positive spacing five. Even someone like Serge Ibaka, Marc Gasol in their prime would go such a long way. So now, when you're looking to shop a Grady Dick, an Ochai Abaji, even potentially an RJ Barrett, now you know exactly the type of player you're looking for. Maybe what you're looking for is something like a John Collins, someone who can positively stretch the floor. Maybe what you're looking for is a Lauri Markkanen, but then that would put some pressure on your defense because it creates all the same issues that Mamu has. Maybe what you're looking for is if the Bulls sputter, right? If the 4-0 start is fool's gold and they want to move off of Nikola Vucevic, maybe you want to look at that as, hey, maybe we can move something to get this and we can have two bigs. Bigs are not that hard to find. Rebounders are not that hard to find. A great starting big is hard to find. I don't think you have one right now, but I'll be curious to see what all of this looks like when Jakob Poeltl is healthy because he's having the worst season in the history of life. Speaking of defense, here's a little bit of a fun stat. Inside 5 feet, which is right at the rim, Jonathan Mobo has been your best defender. Jamison Battle, your second best defender. Jacoby Walter, your third best defender. Again, very limited sample size. Jamal Shed, your fourth best defender. Scottie Barnes, your fifth best defender. Your worst defenders, Colin Murray Boyles, Brandon Ingram, Sandro Mamukelashvili, Emmanuel Quickley, Ochai Abaji, Jakob Poeltl. See the point? The guys who play a lot of minutes are actually your worst rim protectors, and the guys who play very little are your best rim protectors so far. So again, little bit of a caveat here. There's some garbage time minutes here. This is not gospel, but I think everyone who watched Jonathan Mobo last year can say one thing confidently: he's an awesome defender. Okay, he is an awesome defender. Now CMB, very small sample size. CMB is not a bad defender, but he is not a rim protector. He's not a super shot blocker. He's okay. He's not gonna deter Steven Adams at the rim. Okay. He's not going to deter 7-footers at the rim. So he's playing majorly out of position. And if he can shoot threes, he's probably going to be your future 4 or your future 3. So he's not going to be asked to guard centers in the NBA. His advantage is that he can in a pinch, but it makes a big difference when that center is Alperen Şengün or Clint Capella. These big guys. Like, I don't think he's ever going to be able to guard those guys, but he's a 4-3 going forward. Think Antoine Jameson, Antoine Walker, like that type of guy. Antoine Walker was not having to guard frigging Shaquille O'Neal. He would not have survived that matchup. Sharif Abdur-Rahim was not. So he's a prototypical 3-4. He's a combo forward, and I think you have, I think if you want to look at his defensive possessions on Wemby, I think you got a vision into the future of how the Toronto Raptors envision stopping players like that. And I'm curious to see what he'll be able to do against Shea. You've really, like, I walked into this draft with one major goal: replace OG Anunoby. This player is very important. Now, my vision of that was Carter Bryant because Carter is a good shooter. But if CMB is going to shoot like this, I walk back my take completely. I think as explosive and as athletic as Carter is, I love CMB's game overall. And if he can shoot threes, even at a reasonable, competent level, it's not going to be pull-ups from the logo. It's not going to be, sexy threes. But if he can hit threes like Lou Dort can hit threes, it's good, man. Like you've got yourself at worst a really good role player. But if you're looking for positives, guys you drafted last year, Jamal Shed, Jacoby Walter, Jamison Battle, Jonathan Mobile, have actually played some positive minutes for you so far this year. I would argue Jamal Shed you could make an argument, has been your best defender. Talking about 3-point defense, it's Jonathan Mobo allowing 16% from 3 when he's the closest defender. Jacoby Walter at 0%, Ochai Abaji at 22%. These are all like young guys. Grady Dick getting lucky by the graces of shooting variance, 24%. Sandro Mamukelashvili, 25%. Who is the worst 3-point percentage guy right now? It's RJ Barrett, Jakob Poeltl, Brandon Ingram. Guess what? Starter. Again, small sample size. Don't look too deeply into this. But again, this is the complication of playing multiple weak defenders or weak perimeter defenders all at the same time, is the other team is going to get loads of open threes. And also some of these are late closeouts. Some of these are, out of position. and the Raptors are giving up a ton of open shots on the perimeter. So it's the Gary. The hate on Grady has been insane. I won't lie. It's not really hate on Grady. It's just understanding Grady's limitations defensively cannot be masked by negative defenders. If Grady is your only negative defender, I got no problem with it. If you're going to make an argument that he's a positive defender, I'll drop you a link. Please call in and let me know why he's a positive defender. He has been a nightmare defensively so far, and I think RJ has been okay at times defensively. Like he's trying, he's competing, but the scheme execution has been really bad. His recovery has been bad. His off ball awareness has been bad. His lateral quickness is bad. And then obviously at the rim, he is helpless. So, yeah, and their effort is there. There's limitations, though. Speaking of Sandro Mamukelashvili, I think overall, if you told me that this player signed for $10 million last year, I would tell you that's a fair deal. He didn't sign for 10 million though. He signed for a minimum. Now at this point, would I rather Sandro Mamukelashvili sign for a minimum contract plus a player option, or would I rather he signed for $8 million a year for 4 straight years? I'd rather he signed for 4 years at 8 million, because this guy is a steal. He is producing right now at the level of a player who makes around 12 to 13 million dollars. So basically, he is producing. I think he's been better than Davion Mitchell easily. And Davion's hooping. Like, Davion's not shooting well, but Davion is providing a lot of impact right now for the Miami Heat. I would say Sandro is better, and Sandro is bigger, and Sandro is a better shooter, and Sandro is, just a more valuable archetype as a big who can space. And I would say that Davion getting 2 years, 24 million, not that these are really comparable players, but ultimately not signing Davion opened up a roster spot for you to be able to sign Sandro and whatever. So I just think this is a good deal. This was technically the Chris Boucher replacement. Now, obviously, like, I wasn't too mad at Chris Boucher moving on. I was on record saying I would probably offer him a minimum contract and see if he stays, because I think that, he's a good guy, and, he has good synergy with Scottie, and the net rating with Scottie and Boucher always had positive on-court chemistry. Like, we're talking like years of data that say they have a positive net rating together. Scottie and OG have positive net rating. There's a lot of players that Scottie has really done well with. And then there's players that he hasn't done well with, right? Emmanuel Quickley, 3 straight years of Scottie Barnes and Emmanuel Quickley, negative, negative, negative is 3 years of negative, because IQ just does not move well enough and Scottie does not screen well enough for this pairing to work. And so I think with Mamu, you're getting another player that has very, very positive synergy with Scottie. I just think Mamu plus Boucher is a really interesting lineup. And I think it would have been nice to see that. And if the consequence was getting rid of Garrett Temple, I would have been for it. So kind of weird that you're getting out rebounded by 30 and you let Chris Boucher go for nothing. You're not alone, right? Okay, yeah, there's a team at the bottom of the rankings that's really bad, which is the Brooklyn Nets. They're 0-5. The Pacers, I mean, they're missing all 3 of their point guards, and now they're missing Benedict Mathurin. So clearly, after getting their pick back, thank you very much to us, and thank you very much to the fucking New Orleans Pelicans for sending them that pick back. They are now 0-4. And Pascal Siakam is, he's averaging his 26, 25 points per game, but he just can't get them over the hump. Last night, the Pacers could not beat the Dallas Mavericks, and the Mavericks were without Kyrie Irving. And after 7 minutes, they were without, a player who left with an Achilles strain, which is Anthony Davis. And they still couldn't beat the Dallas Mavericks. So, no, Pascal Siakam was not carrying shit. The point is that when you're without Tyrese Halliburton, you're without TJ McConnell, you're without Andrew Nemhard, good point guard play goes a really long way towards carrying you through a regular season. And the Pacers don't have good point guard play right now. So ultimately, they are bad. But look at the Raptors and the Magic, right? At 1-4 apiece. Okay. And both teams are struggling to implement new pieces. Both teams added major offensive pieces to help their wings. But here's the point: the Raptors gave up 1 pick to get Brandon Ingram and expirings. The Magic gave up multiple firsts to get Desmond Bane. And at this point, I'm not really sure. And I'm saying this as nicely as possible. I'm not sure that Desmond Bane is worth a lot more than Brandon Ingram. In fact, I would argue that Brandon Ingram, by the end of this year, might be worth more than Desmond Bane, at which point, hey, man, that's pretty amazing. You didn't compromise your entire future. You still have all of your picks. And that guy on the left is AJ Debonsa, right above my head. And that is the cost, that is the benefit of being a bad team, like the Nets, like the Pacers, is you might get one of him or Darren Peterson or, or Cam Boozer or someone like that, all franchise level type of game changing prospects, all of whom Pelicans fans are sadly going to be looking at like, oh man, I wish we could get one of those guys. You can't because you don't have your fucking pick. So the Raptors, worst case scenario, still have the contingency plan. They still have all of their picks. They still have their flexibility. So I'll say this: the Magic were supposed to be contenders this year. They are the same as the Raptors right now. The Raptors have had a brutal schedule to start. I think you can make an argument the Magic have been worse than the Raptors, and they have a lot of young players who are not panning out. Jet Howard, that's a lottery pick in the same draft as as what you can call it, as Grady. He has been worse than Grady somehow. So that's not working out well. They're also building around a big forward, and we'll take a look at that towards the end. How Paolo is doing compared to Scottie. I mean, look, wins are nice, but your max playing star actually playing well is nice too. And I don't think Paolo is giving them a lot of reason for hope right now, because there was some analytics today that Dean Oliver posted about Paolo and his on-court impact on the team, his consistency, and these numbers are depressing. And again, for years, there has been on-off data to suggest the Magic are better with Paolo on the bench, and people just can't get it because they're just like, "Oh my God, Paolo is so great. How could they be better without their best player?" And it's just like for most of us, we just say, "Uh, I don't know," because Franz is their best player. Like, you know what I mean? Okay, well, I gotta make myself. I gotta change the perspective on this one. Here we go. So this is the Toronto Raptors, and I say rebounding equals effort. Every high school coach would tell you that rebounding is about effort and grit and toughness, but also about scheme. Can't have like too many guys leaking out in transition when you want to actually be a good defensive rebounding team. The Raptors, for all intents and purposes, are the absolute worst rebounding team. So to the question of, is this a positive or a negative? Here's my question to you, Raptor fans crashing out at home who are super down on this team. My question to you is, what would you rather be? The worst shooting team in the league or the worst rebounding team in the league? Which of these two things seem more easily correctable to you? Right? Like, that's kind of the point, right? The defense has been abysmal in part because it is perhaps too aggressive for the players you have. The rebounding has been abysmal in part because you're playing with Jakob Poeltl playing the worst basketball of his life. He's supposed to shore up a lot of that. Scottie Barnes has not been good rebounding the basketball. I think his tendonitis has a lot to do with that. Colin Murray Boyles has a lot, is just outmatched right now because he's having to play out of position. Brandon Ingram has done his best, in my opinion, to be a rebounder, but Emmanuel Quickley is not getting on the glass enough. I think a lot of these guys are just overthinking basketball right now, and it's just not necessary. So yes, the Raptors, the Kings, the Nets, three of the worst teams in the league right now, bottom three in rebounding. And hey, it's not like they don't have guys who can grab rebounds. The Kings have arguably one of the best rebounders in the league, right? But all of this pressure that these teams are putting up, and these are three teams that are pressuring a lot in terms of the break, right? They're pressuring fast breaks. They're doing a lot of press and stuff. So it's leaving a lot of like open shots at the rim. Leaving a lot of floor balance, and these are all three teams that don't have great rim protection. So overall, it's hard to compensate for poor defense, and ultimately, poor defense leads to offensive rebounds because, as any coach would tell you, every defensive possession ends with a rebound. Now, here's some positives for the Raptors. They are sixth in field goal percentage. Above them, the Miami Heat, the Milwaukee Bucks, San Antonio Spurs, Los Angeles Lakers, Denver Nuggets. Superstar, 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 and just the best coach in the NBA in Eric Spoelstra. Those are the five teams above you in terms of field goal percentage. Also, I will tell you, your three-point percentage is also top six in the league. The Raptors are shooting 50% from the field and 40% from three. Remember the 50, 40, 90 club? Well, the Raptors are 50, 40, and then 74 somehow from free throw line. So overall, this has been a really, really positive shooting start for the Raptors. Will it continue? I don't know. But I don't think Emmanuel Quickley is going to keep shooting 26%, 18%, 7% from three. I don't think that's going to continue. He is going to find his groove at some point. Grady Dick's not been shooting well. He's going to find his groove at some point. So, your non-shooters are kind of carrying the shooting load right now. But what if your non-shooters like Scottie Barnes and CMB are just average shooters this year? Like, what if, okay, Scottie's not going to shoot 55% from three. CMB is not going to shoot 60% from three. I get that. But what if they're both just average? What if they're both 35, 36, 34? Because Lord knows they're not getting guarded out there very much, right? So what if they're just average? What if they're just not abysmal? Like CMB and Scottie shot like 27% from three last year. So what if they're not 27? What if they're 36? What if they've really leveled up? right? Ochai Abaji hasn't been great to start this year either. So again, like there's a lot of positive shooters on this team. They haven't necessarily shot super well, and your shooting is largely being carried by RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, Scottie Barnes, and CMB right now. Sorry, did I say Emmanuel Quickley? I meant Brandon Ingram. So overall, I think this could sustain, maybe not 40%, but maybe you're a top 12 3-point shooting team. I'll remind you, you were bottom 5 last year. So this is a major, major, major improvement. And I think if I'm Darko Rajakovic, I'm telling everybody our best 3-point shooter is shooting 27% from 3, and we are top 6 in the league. Guys, our offense works. Okay. The actions work. The agendas are back. I was waiting for this one. I've been saying all off season, Scottie better than him. Well, guess what? 5 games in, I'm a victory lap. Small sample size. Fuck small sample sizes. Fuck my degree in stats. Scottie Barnes is this year, in my opinion, playing better than Cade, better than Paolo, better than the Suggs, better than Mobley, and better than Kawhi. Shout outs, man. Yeah. Scottie Barnes, the agenda is back. We got it. Third option, my ass. 0 level scorer, my ass. He's shooting 55% from 3, which is somehow better than all of these so-called 3-point demons from last season. Hey man, you gotta love the early season. I don't care. My favorite player is cooking these guys. Okay, moving on. By the way, shout outs to Kay Cunningham. He actually played really well last night. The last for the best. Now, this is super, super small sample size, but man, I've been noticing it every single time I watch Emmanuel Quickley play that his paint finishing has leveled up. The angles that he is finding to the rim. Key M saying, "Don't jinx it." Yes, I jinx Scottie shooting every single time he starts well. I can't help myself. So this year, I'll shut up about it. I won't post too much about it. I promise. I'm not going to make an entire video about it. I won't make a viral reel about it. But if Scottie Barnes can shoot 35, 36% from 3, he don't need to be Steph for it to be good, man. He just needs to be average. Okay. IQ paint demon, man. Okay, look, from 0 to 3 feet, Emmanuel Quickley has always been a little bit disadvantaged in this range, right? As a rookie, he shot 61.8%. Last year with the Raptors, he shot an abysmal 57.8%. The Raptors really fucked with Emmanuel Quickley's game when he got to Toronto. You remember, right? Like he was a floater demon, is what I say, right? Like he was a guy who always stopped his drive short, and everyone complained about it and said, you got to extend your drives to the rim. Like you got to go all the way to the rim. You got to invite contact. You got to take contact, finish through contact. Whereas Emmanuel Quickley will often stop 10 feet and then pop, with a little floater. And his floater hasn't been great in Toronto. But one thing that has gotten way, 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 way better this year is the fact that he is absolutely nailing this. His frequency of field goal percentage by distance has gone up by nearly 2 times from last year in this range, 0 to 8 feet. Last year, 10% of his shots came from 0 to 3 feet. This year, it is actually 18.3%. So that's almost a double in volume, and the increase in skill and efficiency. Now, again, we talked about it all offseason. He said this is something he wanted to work on. He wanted to get better at finishing in the paint. He wanted to get stronger so he can guard point of attack. The defense has not worked out. His defensive activity, defensive awareness, court processing defensively, understanding of schemes, all of this stuff has been absolutely ass. But the paint finishing is real right now. Okay. Now 3 to 10 feet, he's shooting abysmally. He's 25%. From 3-point range, he's shooting 27%. But all the talk has been about the weak 3-point shooting. Can we talk about the fact that he's shooting 91% at the rim? My God, 91% is not sustainable. Like he would be the greatest paint finisher of all time if he, like Shaq didn't shoot 91%. Okay. Like Jokic doesn't shoot 91% from 0 to 3 feet. But that being said, if he has leveled up and he can get to 74%, 75%, those are De'Aaron Fox numbers, and that is ridiculously good. So there you go. There's a positive for Emmanuel Quickley as well. Emmanuel Quickley is not my favorite player right now. Obviously, I am not pleased with his overall performance, but credit where credit is due. He has made some progress in this regard. So, all of that being said, if you feel a little bit better about the Raptors right now, make sure to give this video a like. And if you're feeling super, super happy about this Raptors team, well, why don't you consider becoming a member? And shout outs to our new members from yesterday. We got 20 new members, and this is what you get for being a member of Pensare Basketball. A member, like some of y'all, have been for 3 months now, almost 3 months now. So shout outs to our members. Now here we go to a super chat here. How engaged are GMs expected to be? By now, I is it fair to assume Bobby has had strong words to say to Darko? Would he have had one-on-ones with Scottie Barnes and Brandon Ingram? Okay. So here's the thing. I don't take anything overly seriously that happens in the first 10 games of the season. Shooting streaks, hot shooting, cold shooting. There are plenty of players, plenty of teams that have started abysmally and then have found their way. The best way to look at basketball is you want to be playing your best basketball around February. So everything you do from here is to not completely cost yourself the playoffs. Obviously, no one is saying go start 2-20 because you start 2-20, season's over. No one is saying start 2-20. But working through the right things, implementing your offense and your defense, integrating your rotations, figuring out the familiarity, and getting your best players familiar with each other is going to go a really long way later in the season. So I don't think that this is right around the time to be having like strongly worded, like you're going to get fired if you don't make a change type of things. I think the Raptors would be wise to consider trades, and they're not stupid. They have considered trades. They have considered trades for Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. And perhaps soon they will also take my heed and, consider trades for guys like Ochai Baji and Grady Dick, because I think Jacoby Walter deserves a lot of minutes. And I think that he is at worst a neutral to positive defender. And I think he'll find his way offensively. He's just that type of role player that every team can use. So I think Jacoby is like worthy of 20 minutes off the bench. I think CMB might be very soon worth like 25 to 30 minutes. Mamu is worth 20 minutes. He is going to be expensive next season if, what you have on your deck is finally a spacing big that actually works for you. And eventually when Jakob Poeltl comes back and he's healthy, hopefully, fingers crossed, he's healthy. So I just think that there's a lot of things you need as a team right now. You need, strong point of attack defense. You don't necessarily have it from the players that you're getting it from, right now. You're asking a lot of players to do things that are not natural for them. You obviously need a good screen setter, rebounder, shot blocker. You don't really have one. There's not a single dominant shot blocker on this team. The closest thing you could say to a dominant shot blocker you have is Scottie Barnes and maybe Colin Murray Boyles, but like those guys are just strong shot blockers for their position, which is a perimeter player playing down low. They can get some weak side blocks, but they're not rim protectors necessarily in the most traditional sense, like a Walker Kessler, Donovan Clingan, Rudy Gobert. This type of defensive anchor is missing on this team. And if a trade, for RJ, IQ, whatever, gets you that type of defensive anchor, I would be all for it. So look, I mean, there are teams that have come off to very poor starts. There are other teams where rosters don't make a lot of sense. Go make a deal with one of those teams. Go figure out a way to get a Kevon Looney if he gets healthy. Like, go figure out a way to get a Kevon Looney on this team, a Trey Murphy on this team. Trey's off to a bad start. Kevon's, injured. Like, the Pelicans are a mess right now. Their front office is clearly disorganized and very stupid, which is why they let go of Brandon Ingram. So I mean, shit, make another move with them. Let's see what that turns into, right? Like there are prerequisites, obviously, to playing in a Darko offense, which is you need to be a relatively smart player, read and react offense, 0.5 offense and all that stuff. But you already have a lot of players that I don't think are all that smart, and they're playing and they're perfectly fine. So yeah, I understand that everything kind of stalls when you have those types of players. I mean, there's another player like Josh Minot who was available, and I love Josh Minot. Anyone who follows this channel knows I've been talking really, really good things about Josh Minot. He's hooping right now in Boston. He was signed for a minimum. Okay. Rose saying Eve Misi. Yes, Eve Misi was my pick in the Jacoby Walter draft. So, like once in a while I do hit. So, but I'm happy with Jacoby. I'm really happy with Jacoby. And I'm right now I'm petitioning to clear up more time for Jacoby. So there are other teams. And look, man, like if your issue is simply rebounding, there are plenty of really good rebounders out there, on the free agent market right now that just can't get minutes. The problem is you don't just need a rebounder. You need a rebounder, a good screen setter, a good playmaker at that paint position, which is why I think you probably value Jakob Poeltl as a front office as much as you do because he is a guy, at least in theory, who can do those things. But I think Sandro Mamukelashvili is showing you that maybe you have enough in your starting lineup that in order to really unlock your offense, what you need is actually more of a perimeter oriented big. What you need is more of a guy who can get out of the way and allow Brandon Ingram and Scottie Barnes those wider angles to the rim. And I think Jakob Poeltl gets in the way of that. So, yeah. Randolph Phillips, shoutouts. New member, I would assume. Rob and friends, I hope to get a good big man fast. Well, they already have a good big man, but he is currently injured. And look, I'm not kidding. Jakob Poeltl's analytics to start the year are abysmal. He is, I think, negative 8.8 box plus minus. He's been positive his pretty much his whole career. So this is a major outlier. This is not simply he's washed, he's over the hill. There's nothing like that. It's the mask, it's the back. He's been awful. It was really bad. Raptors inside her said, I wish we got Luke Cornett. Well, the guy that I personally wish we'd gotten Jay Huff. I think Jay Huff solves a lot of problems for the Raptors. But like you see guys like Jalen Smith balling out. Day'Ron Sharp was signed to a 2-year, $12 million deal. These bigs are not expensive. Kai Jones is an easy pickup. I don't know if the locker room wants to deal with that shit, but yeah, I'm a fan of Kai Jones. Adem Bono was a second round pick the year the Raptors had multiple second round picks, and he is played starter minutes for Philly. Bigs who can rebound are I want to put this respectfully. Bigs who can rebound and set screens are pretty much a dime a dozen. And by the way, you have one. You have one in your G League. Julian Reese is a good rebounder and a really good screen setter and a really smart player. So maybe at some point you develop him, right? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not saying Julian Reese is the starting center for the Raptors, in 2028, but I'm saying like it's not hard to get these types of guys. You can probably get one with your second round pick next year. I think the Raptors have a second round pick next year, if I'm not mistaken. I hope they do. Anyways, it's not that hard to find, is what I'm saying. There were a couple bigs in this year's draft. Ryan Cogbrenner, right? That was one. Kaman Malawach, that's another, although he's very young. So an older big, 4-year Yannick. Yannick is another example of just a live wire big. Like it's just not the end of the world. Daniel Franklin saying 2 seconds in 2026. Right. We do have the Lakers second and our own second. Cool. Maxime Reynaud is also off to a really bad start. So, Carter and Maxime are two of the worst analytical players so far, but they will be fine. And again, I don't read too much into it. Joan Beranger is amazing. I agree with you. The Hansen Yang stuff, Yang Hansen is also off to an absolutely abysmal start. I tell you, I am on a panel every single week with a guy who told me that guy was going to be better than Donovan Clingan, and I laughed him out of the room. Ridiculous. Red Salute saying, could Julian Reese play a little backup center for the Raps, or is he still too far away, not ready? He is very physical. He's about 6'9", and he's very broad chested, and he's very strong. So he would definitely have done a better job rebounding than most of our players did yesterday. I don't know. It could be one of those things, man. You never know. You never know what a guy is going to do with a little bit more talent around him. But it'll be very interesting to see Julian Reese in the summer league. I don't have any high hopes or whatever. He's a kind of so-so athlete. Thoughts on Nick Richards? Please keep Nick Richards the fuck away from my team, man. Oh my God, Nick Richards is an annoying ass basketball player. But like I went on the panel and I said DeAndre Ayton is like one of the worst defensive bigs or whatever. He's so terrible. DeAndre Ayton has played miles better this year than Jakob Poeltl, and I don't expect that to continue. I don't. I just don't. Anyways, so all of this to say, please like this video if this was a little bit of needed positivity in your life. I was listening to Raptor Spaces last night, and there was this guy, Nabil, who came on, and he's like, guys, I know this is a unconventional take, but, let's not take this too seriously. It's bad for our mental health. Last night, my girlfriend came up to me, and she said, Rob, what's wrong with you? And I said, the Raptors lost again. And she said, it shouldn't be that hard for you. It's a team. You follow the team, you cover the team, but it shouldn't hit you that hard. But the truth is, when your team gets blown up by 20 at home, you do take it hard. I think that's okay. I think it's okay to care about the team, but I think it's also not necessarily productive to focus only on the negative things. And I think our film breakdown last night was perhaps overtly negative because of the Emmanuel Quickley coverage, but I also think that it's important to not just become a magnet for negativity. And I don't believe in false positivity. I never have and I never will. But I do believe that the Raptors are objectively doing some good things this year. And I do believe that they deserve to be saluted and congratulated because, shooting 40% from three, that hasn't happened in a long time for the Raptors, right? This positive efficiency offensively and this theory that, think about it this way. Imagine the Raptors were 4-1 right now, but Brandon Ingram and Scottie Barnes were hurt and they were expected to miss a couple months. Are you any happier? Or worse? Not worse, a little bit better. Imagine if CMB looked like he was a bust and Scottie Barnes looked like he was lost and was averaging 8 points per game. But somehow, because RJ Barrett and Ochai Baji were just hitting every single three they ever took, you somehow managed to be 4-1. Would you really be happier? I think there needs to be a balance between results and process. And I think the Raptors process has been troublesome. And I think the results have been troublesome. Talk about it sometimes too. Also, maybe I left this out, but the Blue Jays are one game away from winning the World Series. And if nothing else, I know that has nothing to do with the Raptors, but it has something to do with the Raptors because both teams play in Toronto. Both teams are owned by Rogers. And I will say this: the Raptors would be getting roasted on a day-to-day basis right now by every media pundit if those media pundits did not actually have a Jays game open on the side, right? Like right now, the way most Raptors media people that I know are consuming these games is the Raptors are open on the laptop and the Blue Jays are open on the big screen. And they've pretty much got 80% of their attention on the big screen. So the truth is, most people really don't care about the Raptors right now. Even people who are diehards don't really care about the Raptors right now. Uh-oh. Mike cutting in and out. Is it still happening? Huh. Okay. Well, that is as good a time as any to end this. Hold on. Are we okay now? We good? Are we all right? Can you let me know? I didn't want to end on a very abrupt peace out kind of thing. Okay, we're good. All right. On that note, before Rogers decides to kick me out of my own internet. Oh no. I wonder what's wrong. Yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing any Wi-Fi notifications. So, anyways, I say all this to say if you would like to hear more of my thoughts on basketball, please join us on Playback tonight. We will be watching Davion Mitchell, Norman Powell, two former Raptors, and the Miami Heat try to prevent the Spurs from making history on Players' Choice Playback. It will probably be a loud, obnoxious discussion, but yeah. I'm really sorry to hear that, man. How about now? Are we good now? Ugh, okay, I give up. Anyways, I will be. Um, Mike saying, "How do I watch you on the other show?" So, player's choice. Okay, one sec. Let me show you. So, to watch on Player's Choice, this is how you do it. You go to Player's Choice playback.tv. Here, I'll post the link in the chat. Okay, I'm gonna be right back. Be right back. Are we good now? Are we good? Are we good now? Okay, thank God. Okay. So, in order to check us out on Player's Choice Playback, it is playback.tv/Player's Choice, and that's what it looks like. And in order to check us out on Player's Choice, uh, you just go to Player's Choice. Cutting again in a rhythm. I give up. Okay. Anyways, I'll talk to y'all later. I'm gonna figure this out. I apologize for the technical difficulties. Peace.